Good day to Doctor and friends. We are from Tutorial 2 Group 5 and we will be presenting on Chapter 15, which is Entering Developed and Emerging Markets. Firstly, let's move on to the critical thinking and discussion question 1.
Thank you, Fifi. Now I will start with question A. Why did Tesco initial international expansion strategy focus on developing nation? Firstly, capturing the first mover advantage. Tesco considered the timing of the entry after the attractive market was identified, which was the developing nations. As there was a multiple strong local companies in the North America and Western, Tesco looked away to the countries that are growing markets, trends, and less saturated. Firstly, Tesco had ability to preempt the rivals and capture the demand by establishing a strong brand identity and customer satisfactions. As this gave a boost to expand, such as in Thailand, Japan, and China. Secondly, ability to build a sales volume in the country and write down the experience to curve away of the rivals. This gave early entrant a cost advantage over the latest one. Tesco had cost advantage as well as gaining the market shares. Thirdly, ability of early attendance to create a switching cost that customer into a product or services.
Good day, everyone. My name is Gurvil, and I'll be discussing on question B. How does Tesco create value in its international operations? So we can see that Tesco creates value through four different strategies. First, Tesco excels at transferring its core retailing capabilities. When a company enters new markets, it brings strong competencies in marketing, logistics, inventory management, and product development. These capabilities are not just theoretical. They are practical tools to help Tesco's international ventures benefit from proven best practices and operational efficiencies. This transfer of knowledge and systems gives Tesco a competitive edge, allowing its overseas stores to perform high standards right from the start. Second, Tesco emphasizes local management with minimal expatriate involvement. Instead of sending large teams from the UK, Tesco hires local managers to run its overseas stores. These managers are supported by a small number of operational experts from Tesco's UK headquarters. This approach allows Tesco to tap into local market knowledge, adapt quickly to consumer preferences, and build trust with local stakeholders, all factors that are critical for success in diverse international markets. Moving on, we have third strategy, which is through its strategic partnerships and joint ventures, which are central to Tesco's international strategy. Tesco often establishes joint ventures with capable local firms, combining its own financial strength and local expertise with the local partners' market insights. This synergy enables Tesco to navigate new markets more effectively and share risk while leveraging the strengths of both parties. Finally, Tesco is strategic about market selection and timing. The company targets markets with strong growth potential and limited competition from established local retailers. By doing so, Tesco secures a first mover advantage and avoids direct confrontation with powerful local competitors, positioning itself for long-term success. So, in conclusion, these four strategies are the main methods in which Tesco allows itself to create values in its international operations, even though Tesco itself is not operating in these countries.
In Asia, Tesco has history of entering into joint venture agreements with local partners. What are the benefits for doing this for Tesco? And what are the risks and how are those risks are mitigated? Firstly, benefits. Access to a local market competition. Partnering with the local market allows Tesco to man the gap between the local competitors, as well as sharing risks and development costs by burdening the barriers between the local competitors. Secondly, by ease of market barriers, as some only allow the joint venture to be on the foreign companies. Local equity partners have influences on host government policies and have a right to speak against the government policy as well as the government interferences. Government suddenly wants to hurt their local businesses and the foreign partners in the joint venture. However, moving on to the risk, it has difficulty in licensing, difficulty of releasing and exposing to its uniqueness of the Tesco, as well as it is essential to make a joint venture agreement. Holding the majority of the ownership will directly contribute to its control of the businesses. However, it might be hard to find the companies that bear that the least control. Secondly, control and subsidies. It has challenges of the controls over subsidies and that need to be realized experience curve or location economies. Thirdly, shared ownership. Shared ownership arrangement can lead to conflicts and battles if their goal and objective change or not match together. As well as interests of our strategy and goal tend to be greater when venture is between firms or different nationality and conflict in the dissolutions of the venture.
For question D, I will discuss Tesco's decision to enter the United States, which marked a significant shift from its previous focus on emerging markets. Historically, Tesco expanded in emerging economies like Hungary, Poland, and parts of Asia, where it benefited from rapid economic growth and relatively low competition. These markets provided first mover advantages, allowing Tesco to quickly establish its brand and capture market share. However, entering the US represented a major strategic change. The US retail market is large, highly developed, and intensively competitive, dominated by established players such as Walmart and Costco. Consumers in the US have higher expectations for product variety, convenience, and service quality. Additionally, the regulatory environment is more complex, with threatened labor law and zoning regulations that Tesco had to navigate. Tesco's move into the US was motivated by the desire to diversify geographically and tap into a vast, affluent consumer base. Yet, this opportunity came with challenges such as market saturation and strong local competition, requiring Tesco to adapt its operational and marketing strategies substantially. So, in conclusion, Tesco's experience highlights the importance of tailoring market entry strategies to the specific competitive, cultural, and regulatory conditions of each market. Success in emerging markets does not guarantee success in developed markets, but emphasizing the need for careful analysis and strategic flexibility.
Next, I'll be talking about question number two. Licensing proprietary technology to foreign competitors is the best way to give up a firm's competitive advantage. Business. Let's begin by examining the pros of licensing proprietary technology to foreign competitors. The first pro is that it allows companies to overcome market entry barriers. Licensing allows firms to access foreign markets that may have strong regulatory and cultural barriers. By partnering with local firms through licensing, a company can enter markets that might otherwise be difficult or impossible to penetrate. Next is the resource efficiency. Licensing is a low-risk way to monetize proprietary technology, especially for firms with limited resources. It enables companies to generate income from the innovations without the need for heavy capital investment or direct investment in foreign operations. And the final point is collaborative innovation. Licensing arrangements can lead to partnerships that foster further technological development. Through joint research and development efforts, both the licensor and licensee may benefit from shared expertise and innovation. Now, let's turn to the cons of this approach. The first con is that it creates competitors. Licensing proprietary technology may enable foreign firms to refine the technology and eventually become direct competitors. This can erode the regional firms' competitive advantage in the market. Next is the loss of control over technology. Once technology is licensed, the regional firm loses exclusivity and control over how the technology is used. This can weaken the firm's position and make it harder to protect its intellectual property. The final point is revenue trade-offs. While licensing generates royalties, it may also sacrifice long-term revenue potential. If the licensee captures limited market share, the licensor will lose more in sales than it gains through royalty payments. In summary, while licensing proprietary technology can help firms access new markets, conserve resources, and foster innovation, it also carries significant risks, namely the creation of new competitors, loss of control, and potential long-term revenue loss. Firms must carefully weigh these factors before deciding to license their core technologies abroad.
I'm Yue. I'm going to answer the third question. Discuss how the needs for control over foreign operations varies the firm's strategies and core competencies. What are the implications for the choice or entry mode? So let's discuss how the control over foreign operations vary different strategies and core competencies in different firms. The level of control a firm requires depends on its international strategy and their own competencies. For the firms with global standardization or transnational strategies, they require tight control to ensure consistent product, service quality, IP protection and so on. Also, let's see the preferred model level here from the left to the right. From the lowest control, which is the licensing, then to the franchising, then to the joint venture. Last is the greenfield investment, which is also the highest control. And what are the implications of intramodal choices? The firms with management know-how or relationship space strengths prefer joint venture or franchising. It can share risks and cost while maintaining some contractual control. But for some lower control modes, it has faster market access but lower investment. But this also has some risk like IP leakage, inconstant delivery, or brand dilution. So vendor control is essential for a company, choose a high control model. But when speed, flexibility, or local ties matter, use lower control models with risk management. So that's all from me. Thank you.
Now I will discuss critical thinking and discussion question 4. A small Canadian firm that has developed valuable new medical products using its unique biotechnology know-how is trying to decide how best to serve the European Union market. Its choices are given below. The cost of investment in manufacturing facilities will be a major one for the Canadian firm, but it is not outside its reach. If these are the firms on the options, which one would you advise it to choose? Why? The best choice is option B, manufacture the products at home and set up a wholly owned subsidiary in the European Union for marketing. So here's why. First, these options help to protect the firm's biotechnology know-how, which is its most valuable asset. By keeping manufacturing in Canada, the company can reduce the risk of technology leakage. And second, a wholly owned subsidiary allows the firms to have full control over its marketing and branding in Europe. This is important because biotech products require careful and expert communication, which something that is hard to guarantee to third parties. And this approach also follows the recommendation from Chapter 15 of Hill International Business, which advised the firms with proprietary technology to avoid joint ventures or licensing to prevent losing control of their intellectual property. Now, why not option A? Foreign sales agent may seem easier, but it means low control over marketing. So the firm risks poor product representation, especially since the agents may not fully understand or prioritize a complex biotech product. While for option C, the 50-50 joint venture with a European company also poses risk. It increases the chance of technology being shared or copied, and decisions would need to be made jointly. This shared control could lead to conflict or misalignment, and the partner could even turn into a future competitor. So, in conclusion, option B is the most strategic and secure path. It offers strong protection for the firm's intellectual property, maintains marketing control, and supports long term success in the EU market.
Next, I'll be providing a 10-point case summary for the case Vanguard in China. Vanguard is a major US-based asset management company with $7.2 trillion in assets, primarily known for its low-cost index funds in North America. Vanguard faced difficulties expanding in Asia, particularly in Hong Kong and Japan, where it eventually closed its offices in 2020 due to limited traction in markets favoring active investing or passive funds. Vanguard saw a real opportunity in China following regulatory easing in 2017, leading to the establishment of an onshore operation in Shanghai. In 2019, Vanguard formed a joint venture with Ant Group, Alibaba affiliate, with Ant holding 51% and Vanguard 49%, leveraging Ant's massive digital payment ecosystem through Alipay. In April 2020, the joint venture launched Bang Ni To, Help You Invest, a robo advisor accrediting runs 1 billion users, offering automated low-cost investment guidance based on Vanguard's models. Within 100 days of launch, 200,000 users signed up, growing to 500,000 by the end of 2020, signaling strong early adoption among Chinese retail investors. China's robo-advisory market is rapidly growing, attracting competition from traditional banks and fintech startups like Industrial and Commercial Bank of China and China Merchants Bank. Unlike firms such as BlackRock that focus on institutional clients and partnerships with local banks, Vanguard chose a direct-to-retail strategy through digital partnership with Ant. Vanguard shifted focus after internal debates and leadership changes, exiting institutional business in China and shutting down operations in Hong Kong, Japan, and parts of Australia. Ant's IPO was unexpectedly halted by Chinese regulators in late 2020 amid concerns over regulatory compliance and Jack Ma's criticism of the financial system, casting uncertainty over the future of the Vanguard long time.
Next, moving on to case discussion, question 1. Attractions of China market, market form, and market risk. As talking about attractions, yes, I do believe that the Vanguard seems that the China market was really attractive, especially from the failure from the Asia, Hong Kong, and Japan. And Alibaba, which has a big customer base from the Alipay, which give a really attractions for the Vanguard to have a millions of investors as well as those trust and credibility from the previous customers. Thirdly, develop sufficient in-house resources and advisory services to lower the risk towards the China market and its failure cost. So, does it make sense for the company to participate in the market in some form? Well, yes. A low barrier in market entry in China due to the joint venture, as well as unique model services that will attract the China investors, automatic transactions, and automatic portfolio rebalance with a little amount of cost. Usage of the Vanguard model was also attractive to the China users, as robo-advisor will recommend a portfolio selected from 6,000 mutual funds after assessing the risk and the investment. As a result, they succeed in creating 200,000 customers that invested more than $300 of million. However, I do not say that the Vanguard did not have the risk. They did have the risk, especially in terms of regulatory risk. China financial systems is complex and changes unpredictably, especially for the Vanguard, which is a foreign company, such as Chinese regulators stunned the global investment community by stopping Ants from pursuing the IPO, which has greatly affected of the app of Bangnitou. China is one of the toughest customer market in the world, as well as local competitors might offer the similar services from the Vanguard model. That's all for me.
The second question for our case study is prior to Ant's IPO being pulled by Chinese regulators, did Ant make a good joint venture partner for Vanguard? What are the benefits of partnering with Ant as opposed to partnering with one of China's large state-controlled banks or going it alone in China? So our group recommend to you the strategic joint venture in China, and the Ant has some is a very strong partner because it's aligned with the Vanguard's retail focused strategy in China. At the same time, Alipay platform with over 1 billion users and 80 million merchants, which is an instant distribution channel, also is enabled digital first market access through a trusted platform. Also, there are some benefits over state-owned banks and offered agility, innovation, and a customer-centric approach. The state banks tend to be bureaucratic, risk-averse, and institution-oriented, less aligned with Vanguard's passive investing approach. But there are still some risk at the same time if they choose to go solo in China. It has a very high regulatory complexity and low brand awareness and limited distribution capabilities. And but and can help to bypass these barriers via local expertise and infrastructure. So the next question is Vanguard's own Asian exclusives favored a strategy of partnering with established financial institutions and focusing on large institutional clients. This strategy has worked well for Vanguard in the US, but is it the correct strategy for China? And what are the potential benefits here? What are the risks? Our group don't think this strategy is very suitable for China because in the US, Vanguard has a traditional strength because it's the dominant institution, not investors. But in China, state-linked institutions prefer local or state-owned partnerships, and also foreign firms often face limited access and trust barriers with big institutions. But it still has its unique opportunities in the retail market. The tech-savvy, mobile-first retail investors are a growing force, but and also and partnership enabled access to millions of users via digital tools and also aligns with China's digital finance transformation. But in the other side, in the other hand, it also has some risks of retail first strategy. The regulatory volatility, cultural and market adaptation challenges, also the high dependence on a single partner increases exposure to political risks.
Now let's move on to case discussion question 4. What are the implications for Vanguard of Ant's IPO being pulled by Chinese regulators? Are there political risks here? Could those risks have been mitigated by pursuing a different strategy? Yes, there are several important implications for Vanguard. So, when the Chinese government unexpectedly pulled Ant Group's IPO, it created regulatory uncertainty for the joint venture between Vanguard and Ant. Vanguard now faces reputational risk by being closely tied to a company under heavy scrutiny. Since Ant is central to how Vanguard delivers its retail investment services in China, any government action against Ant could directly affect Vanguard's operation, growth, and investor trust. This also highlights a key vulnerability in Vanguard's overall approach. The firm had adopted an all in strategy in China, shutting down its offices in Japan and Hong Kong, and relying heavily on this one partnership with Ant. By focusing on just one market and one local partner, Vanguard has significantly increased its exposure. If something goes wrong, politically or operationally, it has no fallback. Now, looking at political risk, China is known for its regulatory unpredictability, especially when it comes to large technology firms. A strong example is the backlash against Jack Ma after he made public comments that were seen as critical of China's financial system. This shows that companies can be punished for stepping outside the political boundaries, even if their core business is unrelated. There's also the broader risk of sudden policy changes, especially those targeting joint ventures and foreign investment. Foreign firms may find themselves affected by the new rules or restriction with little warning, and Vanguard's current setup offers limited flexibility to adapt quickly. So, could Vanguard have reduced these risks? The answer is yes. One alternative would have been to enter China through a wholly owned subsidiary. This would give Vanguard full control over its operation and help avoid political risks tied to a local partner like N. They also could have chosen to build their presence gradually, starting with smaller investment and learning the local regulatory environment before fully committing. And rather than concentrating only on China, Vanguard could have diversified across multiple Asian markets. This would have spread their risk and prevented over-dependence on one country. So in summary, while Vanguard's partnership with Ant offered fast market access, it also created significant exposure. A more cautious, diversified, and controlled entry strategy could have helped Vanguard better manage both business and political risks.
For case discussion question 5, should Vanguard stay the course with the Ant Group? Ant Group is a leading fintech company in China that is currently facing increasing regulatory scrutiny, which has impacted its business model and valuation. Despite these challenges, China's fintech sector continues to grow rapidly, driven by widespread adoption of digital financial services across the country. For Vanguard, the key decision is how to balance the strong long term growth potential of Ant Group against the significant regulatory and political risks it faces. And technological innovation and dominant market position provide promising opportunities for growth. But however, the regulatory environment remains unpredictable and presents serious challenges that could affect returns. To navigate this, Vanguard must stay informed and monitor regulatory developments closely. Maintaining strategic flexibility is essential. This means being prepared to adjust investment exposure and diversify risks as the situation evolves. At the same time, staying engaged with the Chinese market will allow Vanguard to benefit from its future growth prospects. So, in conclusion, Vanguard should neither exist hesitantly nor remain inflexible. Instead, adopting a cautious and adaptable approach will help Vanguard manage risk effectively while maximizing potential rewards in the complex and dynamic Chinese fintech market. That is all from S Tutorial 2 Group 5. Thank you very much.